Hello, everyone. You're watching Let's Talk About Prepping. I'm Tyler, your host, and we're just going to hang out, have a brief chat. And if anyone shows up, we're just going to chat briefly about what they think are the most likely threats currently facing us and how long they think we have before we start seeing on the ground effects from those threats. So, just hanging out. I am tasting Mead. That's honey wine, and it's pretty good. Someone came into where I work today and bought some of that. And I've actually heard a lot of people talking about it lately. So I figured I'd bring some home and try it out. It's extremely sweet, pretty strong. It's 12% alcohol by volume. Got someone in here, but it's good stuff. So, anyways, my current most likely threat. Hey, Wandering Ranger, how you doing? So, I figured we'd just start the chat off with how long we think we have until we start seeing on the ground effects from some, catastrophe or threat or something like that, and what we think that's most likely to be. Now, I always stand by the old new Great Depression, recession, economic upheaval kind of thing. I think that that's always one of the most likely threats that we'll face as individuals, regardless of what other type of thing goes on. So that's what I'm always looking out for, and it's the kind of thing that I think could happen anytime. We're honestly just sort of perched on the edge of that at all times. There's always some kind of just woke up and had coffee. Where are you at? You're on the East Coast? Because I'm on the other end of my schedule. I'm still a day behind you, my friend. That's right, in the UK. Oh, yep, I'll have myself a little nappy and then we'll catch up to your day. But don't worry, this day is still going all right. But anyways, I feel like we're always perched on the edge of that. There's always factors and just things that you can look at that say that it almost looks like there is a recession or a depression being held back by market forces. So it's the kind of thing that I feel like could happen at any time and which could also stagger along for a while. There are plenty of other threats that I think could come along, but as always, I feel that the economic upheavals, and that could be anything just from gas prices increasing dramatically, which would just have a huge effect on everything. That would be disastrous for people's everyday lives, and just it would ripple out and cause increases in food prices and basically the prices of everything that we use and purchase at the consumer level. Um, so just things like that, just the increase of gas prices would cause a decrease in quality of life for many people because we sort of factor in that we'll be able to purchase all the things that we purchase, and maybe some of the things will increase in price. But the reality is, if gas prices increase, everything will become more expensive. But I'm interested, Wandering Ranger, what you have to say. You're across the pond, so your perspective might be a little bit different. What you think is the most likely threat to face you or society as a whole? Brexit, yeah, that will definitely cause a lot of upheavals. That's something that I'm actually not very well caught up on, is just what all that will entail if that goes through. But yeah, I mean, there are just so many factors, and that's definitely something that will ripple out and affect other parts of the world because of how interconnected we are nowadays. So when would that be finalized? With a new prime minister? End of October, huh? Interesting. That's pretty close. I mean, that's something that would have real world effects pretty soon. Not necessarily catastrophic SHTF level ones, but interesting. Should have been done in March. Yeah, I was just reading that. Very interesting. I'll admit, I really have not been caught up on that at all. Just what I hear from other people. What would you see being the main effects that someone like you would see from that? Just increases in prices and stuff like that? I'm sort of leery to go and do YouTube research on what people say will happen because there will always be a bias. I guess that's what I'm doing right now, but I'd rather have a personal opinion of something than like just type into YouTube what will happen when Brexit goes through. Yeah, that's about what you might expect, I guess. Price hikes with everything and the gap between rich and poor dramatically increasing. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that would definitely push a lot of people into desperate, straits. I would also say that a pandemic type thing, just illness, is always something that you can't discount. It's lurking in the shadows at all times, and you can't really say when that might happen or how long you might have before it happens again. But I always, whenever I try to think of what might come out of left field at any given moment, it's always something economic and something, viral or a pandemic, because you just never know when that's brewing or just starting, and it might come at any moment. But yeah, I mean, economic, there could be some terror event that happens in the Middle East or in any of the major oil supplying areas that would greatly affect all kinds of economic things. Hey, Reed's in here. How you doing, Reed? Privatize the NHS. Is that the health services? Oh, I'm trying to edit a video. What's the video about? Oh, privatize the health services. I could see why that would be controversial. Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's cool. Sounds like something I'd be very interested in. And it also definitely sounds like it would be a butt kicker of a video to edit. I can see why you would need to make sure that you have all of your technical, all the things that you say about the different technical bits in there in the proper order. No, I've been off for a little bit, hanging out with family and things like that. So, Reed, since you dropped in, what do you think are some of the most likely uh, SHTFs or challenges that we'll face that will affect our lifestyles? And how long do you think before, what's your window for expecting to see those effects on the ground? Oh, text layout. Okay, I could understand that. Yeah, a lot of the heaviest editing parts is the actual video overlay and things like that. My video editing equipment is currently down probably for good. So everything I do is going to have to be live stream and vlog style stuff until I get reset up with a video editing equipment, which is a phone for me. But economic collapse, then pandemic, solar EMP, nuclear war. All right. Very interesting breakdown. So mine was definitely economic collapse and pandemic. Economic collapse being probably the most likely because we seem to do that a lot. Pandemic, you just can't say when it will or will not happen. Climate changes, okay. I'm going to include, I don't know, I would tend to include that with economic effects because unless you're talking about like very sudden climatic, climatic, climatic changes, um, like sudden flooding on coastal regions or things like that, you're still sort of talking about major economic burden for people as their lifestyles change. For instance, farming, agricultural regions just drying up and becoming unfertile as the climate changes and things just become arid in areas that were once fertile. Um, but yeah, so climate, maybe economic, maybe just on the ground weather effects that will make life hard in a real way, like gigantic hailstones or things like that. Pandemic, you just never know when it might or might not show up. Yeah, asteroid, supervolcano, earthquake, and tsunami. I like to keep the asteroid in mind because it's one that would it be an asteroid or would it be a meteorite? I guess I'm not. I'm always up in the air about those. I know a meteorite is when a meteor comes to Earth. An asteroid may, I don't know, all about the same. All right. I thought there was some controversy. Um, but I like that one because no matter how safe you feel you are in your region, an asteroid you can just fall on your house and take all your preps away, and hopefully you're not there when it happens. But it does get you thinking about, what would I do if just I looked over and boom, there went my state. Super volcano does the same thing. Where I'm at, Yellowstone would pretty much just be a loud sound on the horizon. I imagine that I'd have just enough time to look over there and then just see the wall of flame hit me. But maybe not. But it's the kind of thing. Maybe we would have warning and have time to all try to rush to the East Coast. Who knows? Um, Solar EMP, I like it. I can definitely get behind that. Again, it's just the kind of thing that you never know when it's going to happen, and once it does, it might hit us without any warning at all. Definitely without enough warning to really do anything about it. Exactly, Reed. I've actually been talking to people about that lately, about how it's just good to have places on both sides of the U.S., basically, because while I love where I live here in Idaho, you just never know if an asteroid's going to land here or if Yellowstone is going to start acting up and just making it clear that you don't want to live anywhere near it anymore. I sort of feel like it will just go up all at once, but you never know. It could start sprouting a bunch of tiny volcanoes that tell us maybe we want to live on the East Coast for a while. Things like that. It would just be good to, yeah, like you said, network with different people and be able to have somewhere rather than just absolutely no one nowhere on the East Coast or the opposite coast from you or wherever you live in a different continent, maybe, just in case, it doesn't turn out the way you think it will. That's pretty cool, Reed. Yeah, good friend in Russia. That's not bad to have. Just somewhere that you could disappear to if you really need to. Not disappear, but I mean, if this side of the world goes sour, that might not be a bad idea. So you think 48 hours of an incoming solar EMP, but a flare could hit us in 8 minutes, couldn't it? Like a really big flare if we got the actual direct flare event. You want friends in Japan? Why though? I don't feel like Japan is safe enough from just many different events. But I guess I don't know enough. There could be a lot of really good things about Japan that insulate it from a lot of different stuff. I just feel like it's a little overpopulated for its size, and it doesn't have enough of the resources that it needs to operate independently in a modern way. But I may be absolutely wrong about that. Okay. Yeah, I knew that the charged particles take about 48 hours to reach us, but like for the actual, yeah, I was just under the impression that there is an actual flare of various light speed energies that would cause potential effects. Okay, so the light speed energy is not enough to do anything. It really is just the charged particles. So because I was under the impression there's more than just photons. There's X-ray and just whatever else, everything that will travel at light speed. I thought some of that was enough to cause flare activity, but okay, yeah. But the real on the ground effects will happen the 48 hours later when the charged particle storm arrives. And that's pretty much, yeah. Okay. That was more or less my understanding. But I did think that if that first flare did happen to hit us, if it did, then we could actually be pretty confident that the rest of the stuff would miss actually. So hey, Truth Freeze, how you doing? Haven't seen you in quite a while here. Never trust science, so-called science, you say? Yeah, but I mean, unless we want to start talking about things just not being repeatable, we know how EMPs seem to work. Yeah, I can agree with you there. Perfect. Yep. That was pretty much my understanding of it. Will lead block microwaves and radio waves? I believe that it will. Aluminum, I believe that it will, but you have to be able. I mean, both of these, you have to be creating a seal, essentially, if you will. Exactly how thick, and if there's any weakness where a wavelength can get through. But yeah, so okay, aluminum and lead will work, but they need to be thick enough. And for instance, if you have uh, the lid of something and they just don't overlap enough and they don't block the signal, then it's just not going to do it. Okay, Reed, here's a question for you. Water. Will water do it? Like if I float something in the middle of a fish tank, will it be insulated? I actually have planned for quite a while to do a video about this where I take a cell phone or something and just, all right, cool, float it in some kind of clear glass tank of water and see just how much, water it requires to block a signal pretty well. Yeah, you've been mentioning that manual water distiller for a while, Truth Freeze. I've always wondered if you just have one or what. But you're actually sitting here in the room with a guy who's gonna help us with that. I hope. Okay, that makes sense, Reed. All right, thanks, Wandering Ranger, for dropping in. You have a good day. Yeah, Truth Freeze. No, I hear you. I think that water is the most important thing that we can worry about as people who want to be prepared for the future. So that's why it's something that I've always tried to pay attention to. And Reed from Manifestation of Imagination there is sounds like he knows a lot about water distillation. So I'm going to keep bugging him to share that. I'm going to go refill my water bottle. You guys chat among yourself. I'll be right back. Oh yeah, Reed. No hurry. I understand. It's busy. All right. That makes sense, Reed. Water, the temperature being important. Yeah, Truth Freeze. But it's starting to sound like distillation really is the safest way to make sure everything's out of there. I think activated charcoal is a really good way to get a lot of stuff out. But what I would really is a somewhat cheap system that a person can put together for themselves that they can run continuously and sustainably that will filter pretty nasty water into something that they can feel absolutely safe drinking. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what manifestation of imagination said is, when we're talking about, because there's so many people are going to be forced to scoop water out of a drainage ditch. I mean, so many people just live so far from freshwater sources. They're going to be scooping things out of city concrete canals and things like that. So we need something that's just going to literally separate water, even if it's not necessarily not necessarily the majority of what's in there. I mean, hopefully you're not going that far, but we really want to make sure that we're getting gasoline, just all kinds of chemicals out of there. Exactly. We need testing capabilities as well, because there's really no point post SHTF and filtering stuff if you're just going to drink it and have no idea if it's contaminated in some way. A refractometer. I don't have a clear idea about what that is. I imagine that it's a really intense microscope of some kind, but that sounds like a good idea. Interesting. Oh, I understand. Yeah, no problem. Typos happen. Yeah, distillation should pretty much make anything drinkable, it sounds like. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, I definitely want to learn about that. All right. Oh, yes. I have heard that literally purified uh, super distilled water is actually toxic because it will leach the minerals that it needs to become stable from you. Gotcha. Yeah, I had heard that, but then I had for a while sort of thought that it was an urban legend, or like a myth, But good to know it's true. Yeah, that's interesting, but pretty cool. Hmm. Very interesting. Well, truth freeze. What is your if you're still in here? What is your most likely SHTF, and how long do you think we have before you want to, or before you expect to see it happening? Okay, Reed. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that it'd be something that you would immediately notice, but it is some. It's causing a deficiency very quickly. Pressure cookers and copper tubing. You think we're at the precipice of what, though? Is the question. Food shortages from the Midwest, floods anytime now, you say. Okay. Um, I guess I haven't been watching the food futures market. Mass extinction, says Richard J. All right, Richard J. What do you think will cause this mass extinction? Anyways, I feel like the food futures market will usually show what that is going to look like a little bit before it happens. Okay. Shortage of bees. All right, that's fair enough, Richard. Food belt has definitely been hit, truth freeze. And I definitely agree with Reed, manifestation of imagination, about the national debt being the elephant in the room that will eventually just bite us all. Civil War coming up. All right. I always wonder if that's going to be something that people think is likely. Yes, I worry about the bees a lot. I worry about just our food production capability and just our ecology. But yes, the plankton, the tuna, all kinds of things. There are a lot of basic ecosystem things that are starting to become dangerously close to being permanently ruined. Okay, that's true, Truth Breeze. I can understand that. Okay, see, Reed, that is the most rational argument for civil war that I have personally heard, because I do not believe that Americans are ready to take up arms against their own neighbors and stuff like that. Um, I'm more likely to believe in hardcore political changes over gun things and stuff like that, of just people wanting to move out of states because all of a sudden their state has become anti-gun. But I definitely see internal interdepartmental battles going on as much more likely than people actually wanting to kill other people over it. Um, I believe that people will give up a lot of their conveniences if they're upset enough, but at the same time, I think that once the Starbucks goes away, if you will, and all of the things that that symbolizes, people are going to realize what a civil war really entails. And I think that that's just not something that we're actually that close to. But I do definitely believe that we're close to some kind of cold civil war, like, or even just open strife within our government. I think that we could definitely see things like actively watching factions within our government doing what they can to basically firebomb the effectiveness of other parts of the government. I think that people are petty, and I could definitely see people burning documents literally to keep them out of the hands of another administration. Then I could also see states passing gun laws. Exactly, Reed. Gun laws, or just any kind of laws. I could definitely see the political stance of a state causing large amounts of people to move out of that state. So what we're talking about is balkanization. People basically drawing lines in the sand and moving behind them, saying this is where I'm going to go because it is what I agree with. States' rights, becoming more important than federal rights. Yeah, socialism versus non-socialism on a state level. And that's something that I've talked about whenever I say that I don't think that we'll ever see a civil war like people think about it, because I just don't see where the armies are going to march across multiple states. You know what I mean? It's going to be a matter of people moving to places that support the things that they feel they support, and really, really hard lines being drawn in the sand, and maybe even entire states simply not being able to do business with each other, like tariffs and economic trade wars, simply because one state has simply will not deal with a state that is allowing AR-15s and selling them, or something like that. You know, we could see some really ugly economic civil wars, things like that, where it just doesn't really have so much to do with people killing each other as balkanization and Americans truly seeing as, you know, themselves as different from other Americans. Voting compact, yeah, I see that. Hmm. Yeah, that would be very interesting if somebody wins a popular vote through a compact of states, and then somebody else wins the electoral college. Uh, yeah, that would very much draw a big line between a bunch of people. That would draw differences that people would post on Facebook. There are not a lot of things that I think that people would post to their Facebook and say, I am ready to fight people over this that live next to me, you know. Um, but there are some things that get closer to that. Hmm. Very interesting. See, that's more the kind of thing that gets me thinking than people thinking about violent civil war as it happens in, you know, Soviet satellite states. Scientist Aleph Frumi, how is your morning, afternoon, and or evening going? Interesting. Preppers should read Che Guevara. I think a lot of preppers would recoil from that idea, but I think that that probably has some merit. Do I know if Trump? I don't know anything about Trump right now. I can tell you how my job is going, and that's about it. It's going well. Aside from that, I'm pretty much ignorant to what's going on. I sort of assume that people here on YouTube will tell me when something important happens if I'm there to listen. Exactly. You can always learn from your enemies, Reed. Actually, you can usually learn the most from your enemies. And the best part is they'll often tell you more than the people who are close to you. I'll be right back. I agree, Reed. I think it's important to analyze potential threats and separate that from how likely you personally think that it is. Now, at different points in my life, I have politically believed that global warming was not true. And I still sort of just politically and socially believe that it's pretty likely that it's something that corporations are drumming up, at least in a lot of its forms. I also believe that it's pretty undeniable that the climate is changing in some ways. I think most people in most places agree that their climate is not the way that they remember it being when they were growing up, or how they understood it should be or was 100 years ago. Interesting, Reed. Yeah. Um, I mean, I believe that there's a lot changing. I believe that there's a lot going on. I also believe that it's hard for any individual to say what that is. But whatever it is, I do agree with what Manifestation of Imagination said. It's important for us as individuals to analyze it as something that may be a real threat. You're going to feel pretty dumb if you just completely ignore the potential for something to affect you, just because of political reasons, and then it comes and bites you in the ass, basically. Exactly, Reed. And I don't really see as preppers as one of the nice things that we have as preppers is I don't really see what's important about the why when it comes to did man cause this climate change? No, if there's going to be a climate change, it's something that we need to know about as preppers, and it's something that we need to be preparing for. It's not really so important to be blaming people about it for us as preppers if it's going to happen. We just need to worry about it happening and do something about it. And yeah, truth, Reese, I do agree that we definitely always tend to manipulate things and mess with them beyond what we are prepared to understand the effects of. I do believe that when it comes to genetic manipulation, weather manipulation, and just different things, we're asking for some problems a couple generations down the road that we just cannot foresee because of the chaotic ripple effect of different things. Exactly, Reed. And I appreciate you for saying that because I have, for pretty much the whole time my channel has been up, I've been saying that electric cars either are already to the point, if you can afford one, they're already a very valuable prepper item. And if they're not already, they're very, very close to being something that preppers could use as a very long-term sustainable item. They're pretty soon going to have pickup trucks that you can charge off of a solar setup, even over the course of just a few days, and have a vehicle that is pretty sustainable for a very long time, especially if you're not using it as constantly as you do whenever you're commuting every single day nowadays. Monocultural agriculture. Monoculture agriculturalism. I don't know. I don't know what you would say, but yes, monoculture foods are one of the most dangerous parts of today's society. That's why I like to share the banana apocalypse videos, which I'm going to come back to still. Oh, really? Interesting. All right, I'll check that out, Reed. I follow a few channels that really like Teslas, and they talk about Tesla future, prototypes and stuff like that. And for one thing, especially if we can get past the battery problem, uh, it's going to be amazing. But even still, we're looking at really good electric vehicles that, if you can afford them, they're going to last for quite a while in the grid down. You can charge them up with a home setup if you set it up right, and have a vehicle that's just going to keep running for a while. I'm just curious what you mean by the services wandering ranger, because you mean you don't have chargers everywhere? Yeah, well, that's the thing is I've seen people, like, if you follow Tesla channels, they constantly are trying to do road trips with them, and it's starting to become viable to do road trips in a lot of places. Not enough chargers. That really depends on what you're doing. I do, like I said, I follow channels who, if you know where they are and you can get your commute down. I mean, it's not as viable as gas stations, but yeah, exactly, Reed. An electric vehicle has 1/10 the moving parts. They're usually, if I remember correctly, about 2,000 moving parts in a motor vehicle, and about 200 in a, or maybe it's 20,000 and 2,000. I forget, but there's 1/10 the moving parts in a electric vehicle than there are in the uh, motor vehicle. Hmm. Yeah, social engineering is a big problem. Lithium, I'm sure it's not very nice, but I'm not very sure how nice the entire petrochemical industry is either. Exactly, bootstrapping. There are a lot of memes that go around about wind turbines and electric vehicles and stuff about, oh, well, um, there's just all this cost to invest in building the system. Well, if you actually go back and look at how much was invested in building the petrochemical system, how much has been done to quash opposition to it and stuff like that. Um, no, I understand it's done by slave, yeah, but that's because society allows it to be. If we had the money available to us from petrochemical dollars, I mean, just all that billions of dollars, would it really be need to be done by slave labor, or could it be done by well-paid, well-trained people? Exactly. We need a better battery system. We need exactly. We need fast refill, and they're working on it. There's options. There's just nothing that's economically viable at an industrial scale. Yeah, Pete, I could see that. Especially, yeah, if you but at the same time, we adapted. I mean, if you were to really if you think of the infrastructure that we've built up of gas stations and all the semi trucks that drive into a city on a given day, to refill all those gas stations with gasoline, we have built up a massive infrastructure to support the need for gasoline. I mean, it used to be that we had horses and buggies and things like that, and you had to have hay stalls throughout an entire city. Like New York, you know how much infrastructure there was to have horses in New York? And you know how much infrastructure there is to have cars driving around in New York? We just do the same thing with electric. I mean, yeah, it will be a large peak load, but if we devote all the money that we have in petrochemical dollars and gas stations and all that stuff to electric cars, eventually it's going to work out. And you know what? I'm just really not that much worried about the societal effects about it. Because when it comes down to it, what we're talking about is, can a prepper buy an electric vehicle and have it be pretty much a net bonus for him in the long term? Is there some bonus to having gasoline over being able to have an electric vehicle that will do the things you need a vehicle to do and recharge at your home over the period of time that you have to charge it with? Okay, that's really interesting. Maybe something with like nano beads in it, some kind of suspended lithium. Very fascinating read. I think that you and I need to get in on that, make some money. We'll just grind up a bunch of lithium and charge it with electricity and sell it to people and tell them to put it in their gasoline engines. Yeah, exactly, Reed. You can choose where your energy is coming from with electric rather than just having it be petrochemicals. Yeah, Reed, I've actually really wished that someday I'd be able to get an electric bike because they have some really nice electric, like touring versions that have space for duffel bags on each side of you and stuff. And they can really get you going pretty far at 35 miles an hour. And they're silent, so you could definitely do recon, scouting, long distance travel with just a little bike and a pretty decent solar panel set up. But I mean, you're going to be camping for a couple days at a time. Exactly, stealth bike. I mean, imagine, and you can go pretty far, pretty decently, and a lot of people are planning to use bikes in an SHTF bug out situation. So, yeah, exactly, Reed. A lot of people don't appreciate how few parts there are in an electric vehicle. You've got your core, and then you've got your motion bits, basically. Well, I think I might be wrapping it up pretty soon here and working on a couple other things. But what do you guys got going on? Okay, e-bike kit. So kits to make convert bicycles into electric bikes. Is that what you're saying? Just working on videos. Yeah, I need to really step up my video production. I think I've got at least 100 unique videos to make, and a lot of those are serious. So I need to get on top of it. Okay, convert a normal bike with the e-bike kits. That's a pretty smart idea, and I definitely agree that that would be a good thing to stock up on. I think that being able to slap those on a few different bikes in an emergency, or yeah, yeah, Reed. It seems like every video you make, it just like multiplies the ones that you need to make, because the comment section is basically full of video ideas. That is. Yep, exactly. I pretty much go into one of my video comment sections with my video to-do list ready to go, because I know that I'm going to get a few. Oh, are you talking about the same one as you, or the one just tonight? Okay. Yeah, I saw him, and I saw your email about him. Fortunately, I have not been keeping up on my comments enough to keep any trolls interested. Yeah, I was reading your email about that. That does not sound fun at all. I think he probably got bored because I didn't respond within a day or two and moved on. But I don't understand that. Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I can sort of understand it, but man, that is a lot of time and effort. But yeah, no, that does not sound. I don't like getting that far into it with people. Yeah, they are. I mean, I understand having the time to do that kind of stuff, but it's not pleasant. It's not, I don't know, it's not fun. It's interesting. I guess it's exciting to some people at certain points, but whenever you're trying to do other things, it's just it's crazy to deal with. Yeah, that makes sense. Autoplaying can definitely bring you some weird places. Yeah, and it's definitely true. There are different parts of the YouTube sphere that get really crazy with the wild people. Just reading the conversation, Richard. It's 64. Do I really have 640 right now? Yeah, huh? That's funny. That is definitely a nice round number. Oh, Richard, I'm sorry that your kids aren't doing well. 640 kilobytes. I appreciate that. I appreciate that as well. Special DOS video. I've actually thought about doing a video about the Oregon Trail where everybody dies of dysentery, because I grew up playing that on DOS. Yeah, I'm sorry, Richard, that's no fun having kids that aren't well. You're never Never doing very well when someone you care about isn't doing very well. All right, Reed, I'll put that on the list. Download MS-DOS Oregon Trail and play it for a video. Oh, yeah. Yeah, hunting never seemed to work. I didn't really ever get a hang of that. I did well on the game a couple times, but if yeah, hunting or things like that came into it, it sort of DOSBox emulator. That's cool. I've done a couple emulators in the past for things like Nintendo 64, but I haven't done it for DOS. So I'll have to look into that. Oh, flu season? Yeah, that's no fun at all, Richard. But, hopefully it'll pass soon and they'll be good to go for a while till winter season. Oh, yeah, I love video games in a nostalgic sense. I don't have the time to try new games and keep up or anything like that. So a lot of the time, whenever I have time to play, it's going back to something that I consider classic. Oh, that's cool, Reed. Definitely should be good entertainment. I like that a lot, being able to play things on a Pi. That's pretty cool. Uh, Game Boy is a pretty good option, I mean, the first Game Boy is pretty old. Some of those Mario games are, classic original Mario, basically. I mean, I remember the gray brick Game Boy. I could play that for the rest of the rest of my life if I had to in an SHTF. New Pi has 4 GB of RAM. Wow. Dang, that is really impressive. I know that there's a lot of other videos out there, but have you ever considered about doing? I think you've even mentioned doing videos about how good the Pi could be for a lot of different prepper applications. But it could. I mean, you can run surveillance systems using them. You can run comm systems. You can use just all kinds of stuff that you can use the Pi for if you know what you're doing. You can make videos on them. That's really cool, dude. Yeah, I've thought that it'd be really cool to catch up on that and share videos about how a savvy prepper could really find a lot of use. And in the world that we could face, the postmodern world, there's going to be a lot of a lot of technology scraps laying around, and having the ability to take things like the Pi and strap it together with other bits and make just a little bit of modern convenience out of technology, that would be a really valuable skill set. Ooh, nice. See, that's the kind of stuff that I think would be groundbreaking information. Download Wikipedia, basically. I mean, that's huge amounts of resource right there. Except you'd need to have it like doing a constant archive update. Book references. Yep. Yeah, I would love to have a very large digital information archive. Update every 6 months. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that Wikipedia is somewhat a valid resource now. I mean, as long as you verify what you find there with more valid resources, it's really just one of the quicker and easier ways to find information and then verify it. Exactly, Reed. Ooh, that's good. Copies of patents and processes and things like that. That's a good idea. Ooh, Google Map, like to rip it, actually download it outside of the app. That would definitely be very handy. And keep it interactive, you know, so that you could actually like whip out a phone. And even though it wouldn't have network connectivity, you'd still be able to sit there and scroll and zoom up to what had been there in the offline mode. I definitely think that you could have the ability. You just need to be able to jailbreak that app in particular. You know. Yeah, there are a couple apps that like hunting apps. There's an app in my area that shows you every private property line, everything to where you can and cannot walk whenever you're walking around hunting. Yeah, Richard, you can screenshot the Google Maps image, but it would be nice to be able to interact with it after SHTF. Open GSM where you can make your own. That's very interesting. Your own local cell phone network. Oh yeah, I imagine it's not exactly legal, but yeah, I imagine if you live in a Central American country or something like that, you could set up your own little local set cell phone network to be able to talk to people throughout your valley or whatever. Oh, I'm sure it would, Reed, but still, it would be really cool. I'm sure if you live in a pretty isolated area, like I said, in a mountain valley or something, you could probably be allowed to set it up. It'd be really cool to have just your own little area everywhere in line of sight of a certain peak have cell phone connectivity in a certain network. That would be really cool. See, those are the kinds of things that preppers like Hooples was talking about in his recent video, using technology to supplement a grid down mentality. It'd be so useful if you had a grid down situation to have just one cell phone tower on your highest hill on your property and just everybody able to just chat with each other through it. Yeah, exactly, Reed. Like if you were, like I said, again, in a mountain valley or just really isolated to where nobody's going to be around to pick it up that would be able to detect it and care about it. Be really cool. Yeah, makes sense, Reed. You'd pretty much need to jailbreak everything. Radios, yeah. Yeah, Richard, it's definitely true. But you definitely want to be able to practice with it beforehand as well. But yeah, I mean, if you have the capability of using CB or ham, or even if you have a local cell phone network, yeah, once there's actually a you know WROL without rule of law situation, uh, there's a lot you'd be able to do differently. Yep, lots to catch up on. Yeah, rebuild stuff. Yeah, exactly, Reed. There's no point in trying to just scrape by. If we're not trying to rebuild some modicum of modern society, at least for our local area, what's the point of trying to get by for just one more generation? Well, I really should wrap it up. I got to get going to bed so I can get to work in the morning, which really isn't too far away. Yeah, Richard, I agree that networking is one of the most important things that we can do. Steam engines. Yeah, I've actually thought that between wood gasification and steam systems, we could have something pretty interesting going on. I'm leery of steam because it's so dangerous, but I could see using steam for at least heat energy and a few different things as pretty valuable. Yeah, thank you, Reed. It was definitely a good chat. I appreciate you dropping in. I always like it whenever you make it to a live stream chat. And hopefully, I'll be seeing a lot more of you soon, or you'll be seeing a lot more of me. I've been seeing plenty of you. I just haven't been able to keep up on all your videos lately. All right, Richard. Thanks for dropping in. You have a good day as well. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to everybody for rewatching the live stream. Hope you're all doing well out there. I'm going to get on out of here. Thanks, Reed, Richard, Truth Freeze, and everybody else who dropped in. It was definitely very fun chatting with you all, very informative, and I'll see you guys all later on. All right. Thanks again. Catch you guys later.